What's going on, everybody? It's Peyton here, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Corey and Lucci, and joined by our special guest NeohXO. And the topic of the day will be the trending Disney Clover on Twitter. Let's get into it.
Seven of my gates and now I'm channeling it. I'm here to stay, no, I'm not going dark like Anakin did.
All right, so the topic, as you heard Peyton say, is about Disney Clover and the Twitter breakdown of the most recent chapter of the manga Black Clover by Yuki Tabata. And a lot of people, specifically Black Clover fans, or as some people call them, Black Clover haters, are talking about this series, especially because of in light of what's happened in the most recent chapter in regards to the end of this current arc and what's happened among the characters, more importantly, some of the main characters. And so there's been a lot of negativity around the series, and so we just want to get all of our thoughts out into each other because we all have some different opinions.
Facts. And you know how we're joined by NeohXO on his channel. He mainly focuses on Black Clover stuff too. So he was like one of the best people we could have here to talk about it. One of like the best guests we could invite. So Neo, we want to like get your thoughts on it first, being like a big Black Clover fan and being Black Clover being what you focus as on your channel.
So me personally, first off, appreciate y'all for having me. But me personally, on this, the topic of how the arc ended, I don't think it ended that bad. I think it had like the happy ending, and I think that happy endings are good. Like not all endings have to be bad for it to be good. Like so in this case right here, they wanted people to die at the end of the day, but that's not what happened. We basically had a kind of like a heartwarming ending, you know. Yami passed down the katana to Asta. What do you guys think about that? Like, do you think that's not as good as if somebody would have died?
No, my problem with the story is not that part. That part of that story, of the arc, was an amazing build-up to what the final fight that was gonna happen. The fight versus the Demon King Lucifer, right? And that section of the story that you're talking about, Yami and Asta versus Dante, that fight was amazing. It was
No.
beautiful.
That I'm talking about the most recent chapter where Yami
Oh,
basically says, yeah, like Yami basically says, you know
you're
what, you should
talking about
keep
the
it now.
chapter. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So
That's basically how it ended. It ended very like
him
heartwarming.
passing on the katana. Okay. So what my problem with that chapter is, right, is how Mimosa in general is the main issue of that chapter. How she just fixed everything like nothing in the story ever happened to lead up to that one chapter, right? She just came up, healed both characters, and they were all happy and go lucky, like nothing ever happened, and they didn't struggle about it. That's my issue with that part. Yeah. What do you have to say about it?
So
Do you
what
think it
characters do y'all feel should have died?
should have died? Yami and Vengeance, and
And
then Notch should have taken damage, serious damage.
see, I do feel like it would have been plausible for some people to die. I don't know why in specific Yami or Vengeance. I feel like, to be honest, to be completely honest, like it's still really early in the series. People tend to like think that we're in late game Black Clover, and we're really not. I feel like
Mhm.
we're maybe at like I say we're less than halfway done with the series because I say I can see this being over 500 chapters for sure, and over 600 chapters. So like with that in mind, I feel like it's early to be killing off a major character like Yami, you know, because we're at like chapter 330 in Black Clover, and who would y'all say is like the first main character to die from like a different series, like Naruto or One Piece or another big shonen that people would be
Okay.
familiar
Well,
with?
How about
well,
we
like,
compare? Oh wait, sorry. I'll let you talk. How about we compare Black Clover with current gen story, since that's the standard of what people are reading right now, right? You think you agree that's logical?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so let's start with My Hero, for example. If My Hero was in a similar situation of that arc, important people that died, let's say Midnight, she died in the story, right? Or and the teacher, he took damage, serious damage that affected his quirk permanently,
Yeah,
right?
Gran Torino.
That is casualty. That is normal. That is a perfectly planned out story, and that is how a story plays out and how it leads up to at the end. You feel me?
So I didn't
There's the
watch the most recent season of MHA, but you guys remember how one of the previous seasons, it wasn't, I don't think it was the latest one. They had a character who was literally introduced in the same arc that he died in. And people were
Yeah, you
saying,
talking about Night Eye?
yeah, and people were saying like that was like a major death, but he really wasn't like in the series. Like he literally died in the same arc he was introduced in.
I
Like
see what you're saying.
I don't feel like
so
I
you're
feel
saying
like
his character wasn't important enough to be compared to Black Clover? Is that what you're saying?
I say he was important. I just say we didn't have enough time with him as we had with some of the other characters like Yami. Because people saying they want Yami to die, but they got to realize we had a lot of time with Yami. So if Yami dies and his death is not fitting for a hero, like a hero's death, then it will be very unsatisfactory.
So like what I was thinking, like I know y'all said like compare it to new gens first,
Mm-hmm.
but like from my view, I'm viewing it from like I'm just thinking like right off the top of my head, like in Naruto, third Hokage died. That would almost be like if the Wizard King died, because you know it's not like his direct mentor, but they still have like major impacts on the character's life. Like third Hokage, he had a major impact on Naruto's life because that was basically his father figure type junk. He basically guided him through life before he got Kakashi or Jiraiya and junk. Asta, he got his first inspiration from the Wizard King because the Wizard King shows so much like interest into him, right? So with that, I feel like the Wizard King should have at least died before, but that also could have been like a ripoff of Naruto. And also in like the same sense, like Lucci said, Night Eye being a mentor to some of the characters in like My Hero or something, there should have been an instance where like Charlotte should have died or like Real because they're the same way with those students. Like they have their people under them and they have people who look up to them just like Midnight did. Like the dude with the purple Johnts in his head, he looked up to Midnight. Not only because he was like a pedo, but like characters actually looked up to her, just like Momo did too. She looked up to Midnight, just like characters in Black Clover would look up to like Real and Charlotte and Junk, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I feel like the most major death in Naruto though, like to it I that's a good point, honestly. The third Hokage dying, that was pretty
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
that's a pretty meaningful death. I don't think nobody could disagree with that. Like I agree that was meaningful. Another one was Jiraiya though. I feel like, and that's more comparable to Yami. You know, you feel like Jiraiya is more comparable than
Yeah,
Hiruzen.
like yeah, but like Jiraiya isn't his main mentor. That would be Kakashi. So like viewing that, I would see like if we're comparing them, Kakashi would be more like Yami, and
But that's the
Jiraiya would
even
be
worse comparison because Kakashi's still alive to this day.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
I'm
if you
just saying
use
like
that, then Yami will be alive till Asta becomes Wizard King.
no, I was saying like Notch would have been like his Jiraiya. You feel me? Like Notch should have at least died because he was there to train him, but he wasn't his main mentor. But he still taught him like meaningful things. Like Jiraiya taught Naruto the Rasengan. Asta was taught Devil Union by Notch, right? So then Jiraiya, he knew Naruto's dad. Notch knew Yami before Asta knew Yami. Like you feel me? Like that would be the positions that I would put them in. You know, almost
Mm-hmm.
like if you viewed it as almost like a family tree type jump.
I see what you're saying, but Nacht is a much younger character. Jiraiya was kind of older. Like him, he went along with like Orochimaru, Tsunade. They're like old characters. You know what I mean? Yami's much older than. Actually, nah. I say that. I guess that does make sense. That's a very sound, logically sound argument. Nacht is very much like Jiraiya in a sense.
Of like
Mm-hmm.
what they taught their kids or their students.
Yeah, because I don't think you mentioned it, but Nacht taught him the Devil Union.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, facts. And that's like Jiraiya teaching Naruto his Rasengan. That's almost like their signature moves type jump. Well, not signature moves, but like Jiraiya also taught Naruto how to control the Nine Tails a little bit, because remember when they were doing the training for that, Notch taught Asta how to control his demon, Taijon. So like they're pretty comparable. Like if you put them side by side, for me.
Don't it feel like we spend more time with Jiraiya though?
Yeah. In fact, I feel like Jiraiya was there more present in his life than Notch is for Asta. But at the same time, I feel like it's not who spends more time. Like I could spend more time with like Lucci than Corey, but maybe Corey had a bigger impact on my life. That's how Notch is for Asta. Notch has this huge impact on Asta's life because we see
They
Asta
also
hasn't.
show the character. Yeah.
Yeah, Asta hasn't had much of a father figure. Like when he was growing up, he had some old dude watching over him. That's not a father figure. Then he gets to the Black Bulls and he has Yami as one. But then he has Yami about to die. So he's looking for somebody else to be his father figure, you know?
I feel like that don't fully sit right with me because Noct spent not that much time. Like I think time does matter. Cause Yami was there since the day that Asta became a Magic Knight. Noct only came and within like he did train him, but it was only like a couple chapters, like 3 chapters that Noct trained him, and then it was 3 days. Remember, he was like, "We have literally 3 days." Jiraiya trained with Naruto for like months.
Yeah, facts.
The time matters, bro. Like I feel like you can't compare 3 days to like months and months.
Not Jiraiya was with him for 2 years because that was a 2-year time skip between Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. So yeah, that is facts. But like also when you think about it, Jiraiya wasn't there with Naruto during like some of his biggest fights. Meanwhile, Notch is there with Asta during some of his biggest fights, like against what's his name, Dante. He was there, like when they fought again at the Clover Kingdom. Not the first time they fought, but when they fought again, he was there. Notch was also there with Asta when he was fighting the other demon in the Clover Kingdom. But Jiraiya wasn't there for any of Naruto's big fights. Like when Naruto fought Pain again, Jiraiya was already dead. When Naruto
Nah, it
fought,
was that he really wasn't. It was more of a Magna moment against Dante.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like when Asta was first fighting him and like they were testing their junk out, Notch was there watching him.
Okay.
First
I have
find
I found a
demon.
comment from Twitter. One of the people that have problems with it. Okay, it says the chapter itself was okay because the Black Clover cast is amazing, and this chapter showcases that. Yes, we all agree on that. It's the lack of consequence from the last chapter that bleed into this one that makes it troubling for the fans. Like the devil not taking out Asta, knowing he'll be a threat later.
I
What do
also
y'all
want to
think?
say,
What do y'all
I
think
also want to
about
say,
that?
like, compared to this, because like that's like a reoccurring theme in like Black Clover, especially recently with this arc, is like it's not just a lack of consequences. It's like the suspense they build up because they make you think that there's gonna be consequences. They're like, oh my god, this person's about to die. Like I don't have any magic power to heal him, and he just took all this damage. And then 3 pages later, here comes Mimosa with this ultimate
Yes,
plant
of
magic we haven't
local
seen before.
magic that could heal anything.
Yeah, so
To
like
me,
it's just
to me personally, I'm saying this on the record. I feel like this is like a 40 chess move by Tabata. And you know, I obviously this is not something that I could prove because it's more of a prediction. But
Yep.
I think that it's building up toward Lucifero being kind of like not the main devil because Lucifero got his heart stolen away. So I think Adramelech pretty much betrayed Lucifero, and he's going to use Lucifero's heart to create a devil that has never been seen before. Because he has, presumably, he's going to have his heart, and he's going to combine that with Lucifero's heart, and combine that's going to be an even greater power. And Lucifero is just a stepping stone for that to be able to take place.
Is that your prediction of why that chapter ended like that? Is that why you think he built up that little gag story at the end?
I feel like Lucifero, everybody expected him to be the big bad. Cause y'all just said like they hyped it up. So I'm guessing that's why, because they thought Lucifero was the big bad. But like 2 things about Lucifero, he was
Mhm.
at 50%.
Yes.
So if he indeed does come back at a later time, he's gonna have way more of a mana pool and way more of his power to be able to use. But if he doesn't come back, then he was just kind of like a pawn, basically. He was just like a subversion from what's actually taking place. Like he was a side mission, right?
Yeah,
And I feel like this not the end. Like, you know how like people always say there's the end game. I feel like Lucifero is not the end game. He's just like a diversion.
Oh, so you're
And
saying it's like a
there's a
prologue
I think
to what's
I
actually
could
going to happen.
yeah, I could sum it up in like this. There's basically Lucifero is not the threat that people should be worrying about. I think there's a overhead looming threat that's even greater than him. But everybody's putting everything on Lucifero, like basically making Lucifero the fall guy, when in fact they got somebody bigger.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're. I see what you're saying. That's a valid argument.
Because when it comes down to it, if people did hype up Lucifero and think that he's the big bad, it makes sense, right? It's for people to hate. But if he's not the big bad that everybody thinks he was supposed to be in the first place, and it's somebody else, then we understand why Lucifero died, because it was just part of Tabata's writing process and he had something planned. You know, people are going in with the assumption that this is what Tabata has planned, which could be the case, like I said, because we didn't get to that part yet. But me, you know, Tabata like my mangaka, so I'm gonna have to put faith in him and say, oh, he did that because he has something greater planned, a greater threat.
yeah, that's facts. Like I see where you're coming from with that, but like just because there might be a greater threat coming later, at this moment that we're in right now, there's enemies that they're fighting that should have been able to kill them and had the capabilities to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And people are seeing that and they're like, this is just dumb. Like this isn't even plot armor. This is like plot manipulation type jump. Like the writer isn't even writing for the fights. He's just writing to see these people continue to live and jump like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
One Piece characters, they have plot armor. Luffy should have died in multiple times. But like from my point of view, nobody in One Piece has had a whole circle in their stomach and lived. Unless I'm tripping. Like I might be tripping. But I haven't seen a single character in like One Piece or Naruto, they had a hole in their stomach when they was fighting.
Yes.
But like My Hero either, they didn't have one.
Yeah, I also have something to add. A character doesn't necessarily have to die. There has to be consequences. Consequences as in the character can't use his certain power up anymore. A character got injured so bad he got like 50% weaker. My problem with that chapter was Mimosa being a plot device to heal everybody, so the author can reuse that character over and over. You understand?
Yeah, I
Like,
see what you're saying.
yeah, Mimosa, her whole existence just defeats the purpose of the story and the arc. The arc is amazing. The villains are amazing. The main cast are amazing. The fights are amazing. How the story was played out was amazing. But that one chapter, Mimosa, her existence is a plot device to just push characters, and that is not a good thing for a story because it makes it feel like a cartoon for kids. Because there's no consequence. There's no bad thing. There's
And
no
going
like
off
drawback or side effects. Because she just cures everything and heals everything.
and going off that plot device thing, like I know we're comparing it a lot to
Hmm.
My Hero Academia since they're so close, but like My Hero Academia, they also have a character that they could use as like a plot device because with that little girl Eri who can just rewind anybody's body to whatever state they're in, like most healthy in, and
Yes,
like
but there's a drawback.
yeah, like she
Mimosa,
doesn't do that like
notice
every
notice
time.
notice how Mimosa um notice how Mimosa was like she couldn't use magic anymore, but then Black Bulls came and gave her that food to like heal her, and then she was able to heal.
Hmm.
That just cancels out the consequence. Eri in My Hero, she can't fully control her power. That is her consequence. That is why her that's why she's important. Why her power is OP, but like useless, because they can't rely on that. You feel me?
But
Yeah,
Asta
like this.
did have consequences in this arc. Like he lost his arm completely. Like he has like a double arm now.
I don't.
Yeah, that's a consequence of using Wig. Same thing with like Nero. Her consequence of using Wig, she has the horns now permanently.
Oh,
Some
I
consequences are
understand what
really
you're saying.
feel. I feel like Asta lost his arm. I think like back when they were fighting Dante, I thought, and then when he brought out the sword because he had like the black arm when he was trying to use W for the first time, and like even though like yeah, you said like has a full on devil arm. To me personally, I don't feel like unless I could be wrong, but my prediction is just like I don't think it'll do much in terms of like him actually fighting since this is like his story as the main character. But I could be wrong though. That's just my prediction.
Yeah, because Asta did say, well, not Asta, but the devil did say, with this, I will make your arm come back, but only when we're in the devil union, right? Right, Neo? Or am I sure? Like, because from what I remember, it was like they had a conversation and they were talking about like what they would do if they were working together. Because Asta didn't want to be like in control of the devil, like Notch wanted him to be. Asta, he wanted to become friends with the devil. But like from our standpoint, we're like, that's not smart. So the devil was gonna make like restrictions. But due to the plot, having plot armor and being like the Disney Clover, like people said, the devil was giving him his arm. He was being nice, all this plot armor, and they're just giving him everything that he wants and needs, right?
Let's talk about the build up of the story.
Starting from
That's
what part?
okay. So the arc in general. What is it, Neil? Since you're more of a Black Clover fan and you're more knowledgeable on the story than all of us, what is your opinion on the arc, ignoring the chapter?
It's not.
Yeah, like give us a full analysis on your full opinion on that arc. Let's
All
say
right.
the
So
chapter didn't come out.
coming in like with the arc,
Mm-hmm.
everybody was hyping up mostly the Dark Triad, right?
Yeah.
So they were hyping up mostly the Dark Triad. I think the Dark Triad delivered for the most part. Vonica had a very good fight against Noelle. The first fight, Noelle actually didn't have the edge, and she ended up losing. She did prove to be a worthy opponent, so Vonica left her to become stronger. It has some ties to her mother. I think that was cool. A lot of people were hating on the flashbacks, but I think the flashbacks actually added to this arc because we got more flashbacks of literally the Light Triad's parents from this, right? We got the flashback of Yuno's father and his mother. We got the flashbacks of Noelle's mother, and we got the flashback of Asta's mother. I think those are some plot points that really develop the story. I really like those. And going off of the flashbacks, they did have a lot of flashbacks in this arc, but I think flashbacks are pretty good if they're good flashbacks, right? And I think the ones in this arc were good. Like the Lasita one, you guys, I'll ask if y'all agree or disagree, but the Lasita flashback arc with Libe is pretty good.
I did like that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
I'm not gonna lie, that was smooth. That was smooth because it added a lot to the story other than just this is his mom. It made Asta and Leah Bay have a connection with each other with them never knowing about that. Like they did not know about each other until this moment, and they were like complete strangers. But then with the Lachita flashback, they're like, "Oh, we're brothers. We have to put in this together." Leah Bay feels like he owes Asta something because of the woman that adopted him is this boy's mother.
So yeah, that's one thing right there that about this arc that I'd say is really, really good. Another thing that caught a lot of people by surprise, I feel like, is whenever Xenon went and he completely crushed the Golden Dawn. And like, some people will have the debate in itself of the Golden Dawn versus the Black Bulls, but in terms of rankings, the Golden Dawn is ranked number one, the number one squad. So the fact that a Dark Triad member came in and destroyed their base, kidnapped their captain, I think that was crazy right there. Then even if people did have the debate about the Golden Dawn and the Black Bulls, the same thing pretty much ended up happening with the Black Bulls as well. The fight between Dante and Yami, whenever Dante tried to take Yami, I think that fight was really good, and it kind of started right there and then had a conclusion in the most recent chapter because Yami tried to fight against Dante. He was pretty much superior to Dante. I thought that was cool to see that. What level Yami's on. Like that put Yami on a really high level. But the thing was he couldn't defeat Dante because Dante has hacks. So he basically tossed over his katana to Asta and he said, "All right, I can't do this, but I'm entrusting it to you to get the job done. So he tosses over the katana to Asta, and then unfortunately we see Yami. He does, he kind of lets down his guard a little bit. They defeat Dante, but then Xenon comes, take him, and the katana is left behind. So I feel like it had the conclusion recently whenever Yami was like, you know what? You get to keep the katana, and he's just gonna get a new one. And I feel like that was a good conclusion to that arc in and of itself, because like there's arcs within the arc itself. I feel like that was a good character arc.
Yeah, I have something to say about the villains. The dark triad, they felt Mimosa and Dante. No, not Mimosa, Vonica and Dante. They felt empty. The only character that had depth was Xenon, because he had a decent backstory. He had a reason of his current actions, why he did that, why he's fighting right now, and the character, the fourth brother that they chose to ignore and just throw away after introducing him, really threw me off, because like I feel like he would have been a good character also at the end. Like he had this evil plan to like manipulate the siblings to gain more power for himself, but he was never introduced. Like he was just cast away, right? And then there's Dante being, and then yes, there are powers being gassed up so much, and then there's Yami, and then there's Yuno, and then there's Asta getting this power up to counter it and then quickly win easily, so easily without casualty. Like the Xenon fight, right? Yuno versus Xenon. The Yuno's grimoire, his second grimoire coming, was a heavy plot armor. That we could all agree on that. Like Neo, you have any
Nah,
arguments with that?
I can't agree with that, because like from the very beginning, you could look at his pendant, right? And his pendant has stars on it. And also, if you go back to so that's basically the pendant having the stars, and he got that from his family. That's kind of foreshadowing since the very beginning that he's gonna have star magic. Um,
You
and
don't
then
think the introduction was like plot armor to protect Yuno from taking damage?
I think it makes okay. We have to admit that the light triad has plot armor. None of them are gonna die before like in at the very least in game Black Clover, and like we agreed that we're not
Facts.
at in game yet. So
Yes,
we agree
guys.
that the light
Sad.
triad is gonna have plot armor. That's just kind of how shonen is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it made sense for him to get the grimoire right there on the fact that he was in his home kingdom. There is at no other point has he ever gone to his home kingdom, and if he did, then he could have got the grimoire there. But considering it's the first time he went to his home kingdom, that's the only chance throughout the entire story that he could have got the grimoire, because he's not from the Spade Kingdom. He's from the Clover Kingdom. He was just born in the Spade Kingdom, but at that time when he was born, it's irrelevant because he wasn't old enough to get the grimoire anyways. So the
Mm-hmm.
only time that he's been to the Spade Kingdom has been now, and he's old enough to get the grimoire. So that kind of works, because Tabata, you could tell Tabata had been planning that, because in the Elf arc as well,
Mm-hmm.
everybody got their body taken over by the elves except for Yuno. This was another foreshadowing. So Tabata had been planning this, right? Because the wind magic is not even from Yuno, like the Yuno that is in control all the time. The wind magic is from the Lick Sun Soul. So Yuno
Yeah.
actually just got his real magic that has been foreshadowed, because like nobody else had that happen to them, where the elf spirit was just in sync with their body. The closest that happened was William Vengeance, and that also makes sense because is placed into William Vengeance's guidance, his care, his student.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've what I feel like was that what would have made it not feel like plot armor at that fight was if the grimoire was introduced to before before uh
Started fighting.
before the fight happened. Yeah, like
I did
if
feel that. Yeah.
huh?
I'm just saying I did feel that because like during the fight, like when they introduced,
Like
they
they're mid
said
fight
like
and
his
he's
was
losing,
scoring.
and then they
Yeah,
just introduce the Grimoire and he becomes so powerful that he starts overpowering it. It just defeats the purpose of Xenon being like the main good character in the dark triad.
But the star magic was that's what it was meant to do. Like it was meant to overpower the devils because
Yeah,
the Grimbarios were the ones guarding the demons and like
but I'm talking like what would have made it feel like worthy of like it being like a good ability power up was if like had it, but he couldn't control it at the beginning. But then the tension of the fight made it so like he was able to fully master the grimoire so he could overpower it. That would have been a better like plot line instead of like the grimoire just being randomly introduced. You understand what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like you realize he got like like he didn't like just go into the Grimoire Tower and get the Grimoire. He was fighting, and in the middle of the fight, he got the Grimoire because he was like attacked into that. Like you said, he was losing. That's why it was even brought up for him to get the Grimoire, because like he got hit through the tower with the Grimoires in it,
Yeah.
and he would have died right there, pretty much, if he didn't have that meeting with his other half and then get the Grimoire. But like it's not like he just walked over there mid fight like, yeah, I'm gonna get a power up. It's kind of like, I guess you could say it's really lucky, but like I wouldn't say luck is always plot armor. Like you could just say like, yeah, because he got lucky. But that happens in anything. Like if you go to like, I don't know, like a sports game or something, you down by 1 point, you shoot the ball half court, you could get lucky and make that.
And I just realized there is a consequence in that arc. The death of like the Golden Dawn members
Yeah.
will push Vengeance and Yami, Yuno to fight. I feel like that was a strong enough consequence. It just felt thrown away because it wasn't brought up, it wasn't said. Like they weren't mourning. Like the ending was just happy. Like the Golden Dawn members didn't die at that part.
Some of them did though,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
Hammond died.
I'm saying like yeah, they did die. Like they like members of the Golden Dawn died. That's why and Vengeance got like mad, right? And they chose
Yeah,
to fight. But like I feel like that part, that one good consequence was just thrown away with the Mimosa thing and like the main fight. Like how like shoot, I just contradicted myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What I meant was how the consequences of that fight should have been brought up more so people will remember it instead of start complaining about how that one chapter was spoiled the whole arc. You understand?
yeah, I get where you coming from. For me personally,
Hmm.
I think we could have done with death, but I don't think it should have been like the ones y'all are like proposing, like Yami and Noct. So
Yeah,
I
that's
know
all.
somebody said Yami and somebody said Noct. Me
Yeah, that's all.
personally, like if it was my pick, it would have been Gaja, because he did use his
Yeah.
life force, and I think his would have made more logical sense for his death. But Yami and Noct, they were healed right away because it is you gotta know we're dealing with anime time. So I also had 5 seconds. So yes, they had holes inside of their body, but I don't think they didn't bleed out. Like they were. It's not like they were sitting on the ground for hours or even minutes. I don't know how long it takes to bleed out, but at the end of the day it was 5 seconds, and then they pretty much after the 5 seconds Asta takes down Lucifero. They pretty much got that all patched up.
Yeah, facts.
And like it's not like I said they got a arm through the stomach. That is true, but the arm was still in there. If you look like chapters after that, the arm was still in there. So it's not like they took the arm out and then let them bleed out for like minutes and minutes and minutes. The arm was in there. Asta took down Lucifero 5 seconds. Then right after that, they came in and healed him. But like with Gaja, it makes a little more sense for the Gaja death because he used all of his life force, everything that he had.
That's what I was saying earlier because I thought Gaja and Charlotte and Real were gonna die because they were trying to heal those three, and then
Roger didn't die.
no, he got healed and then confessed his
Yeah,
love to
n-
what's her name?
nobody died.
Let me
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
died.
That
I can
Roger is a good example. Wait, did he get healed by Mimosa too?
I'm
Nah, didn't he
checking
get?
right now.
He got healed by somebody else, right?
Let me see.
Yeah, let's go like analyze it before saying anything.
Yeah,
Because I remember Gaja. He was fighting that dude, and like he literally said, "This is all that I have," and
He
like,
literally spent his life force. If Gaja had
yeah,
died in that story, that would have made what he said worth it. But
yeah,
the plot, no, not the plot, the statements and like voice acting, not voice acting, what the characters say have no meaning because like at the end of the day they still get saved. What they're fighting for, their like dedication, doesn't matter anymore because like they just spent their life and everything, and then like boom, they're healed. Like it just felt like what they said at that part was pointless because like they still get saved at the end.
yeah,
yeah. I'm sending some stuff right now
Yeah,
from the chapter where like
yeah,
they
let's
said
look
they're
at
about
it
to die,
and
and then
see.
yeah, because I'm about to send this one page. Knox says, "Not everyone who's right is necessarily rewarded for it, and that's reality." And then he says, "I brought the healer who's gonna heal all of y'all." Basically, and then in this plan, and then I'm gonna send this one other panel right here.
So what you're saying is he's contradicting what he's saying.
Yeah, and then like
Yes,
because
and
Mimosa
that
comes
is
in,
thank you. That is a good example.
she heals all three of them. I didn't know she healed all three of them. I thought
yeah.
she just
Cause
healed
like
three.
Mimosa was healing everybody, bro. Like Mimosa is the GOAT. Like I know I'm mad about like her healing everybody, but at the same time, like Mimosa's the bae. That's best Black Clover girl. She's in there healing everybody. I want her to heal me for real. You
Okay,
know?
Bro, go on,
My
go on.
fault.
No,
But
no, no.
yeah, like she shouldn't be healing everybody, but at the same time, it does make sense, but at the same time it doesn't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I
I feel
don't know
like
if I'm
it's
making
about
sense.
management of expectations. Like I feel
Yeah,
like what why do people put Lucifero on a pedestal whenever he was at 50%? I understand like he was stronger than the captains, but like from a narrative perspective, I think there were some greater payoffs in this chapter that didn't have anything to do with that. Like I named a couple, like the Yami passing down of the katana. I think that was cool. That was better than that. Like I would rather Yami be alive to pass down the katana to Asta than Yami die without having done that. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
think
yeah,
that's a better path to go down.
Yeah.
he's
but
just
like
Because the
with
alternative
oh,
path is okay. Yami dies and he doesn't pass down the katana to Asta, and we never
yeah,
get that. We never get that moment. Cause I think a lot of people are gonna say that was a great moment.
yeah,
But if he
but
would have
like
died, we would have never got moments like that. And with Gaja, okay, like I said, I'm not mad that Gaja died because the way it was paid off worked for me as far as my enjoyment. Right, I
yeah,
enjoyed Gaja being alive because, like I said, if somebody would have died, I would have said, okay, cool, Gaja. He literally gave his life. And it would have been like still a love story. But in this way, it's still like a love story because he was alive to tell Laura Petrica how how he felt about her. But if he hadn't been pushed to those limits, he would have continued living or just never got to tell her how he actually felt. Like if he wasn't pushed to the verge of death. Like that's basically what it took to get this man to tell Laurel how he felt.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's facts. And also like I know you talked about a lot of things, but I also want to go back to the thing where you were talking about like people putting what's his name? Lucifer on a pedestal. And like you said, he was stronger than all the captains, which is true. But like it wasn't even just that he was stronger. He was manhandling all of them at not even 50%. He wasn't at 50%. He was using his minimal power in 50%, which isn't even his full power. And then he's fighting all the captains at once. And that's including Asta and
But
too.
he couldn't kill them even if he wanted to because they were under the protection of Rose Twilight Valhalla.
Yeah,
Even
but
if
he
he
was.
wanted to kill them, no one can die in that spell.
That's also another reason why we're calling it like Disney Clover, because no one can die to that spell. That's like, on Black Dragon Ball Super, they have the Senzu beans. They have the Dragon Shenron. Then they have Goku. They have alternate timelines. They have Trunks. They have all of this. That's basically what I'm seeing in this Black Clover fight. They have Rose Protection. They have Mimosa Healing. They had Asta with all of his plot armor. Like, that's what I'm seeing, and that's why we're calling it like Disney Clover, because you also think of it as a cartoon. Nobody's getting hurt. You remember back in like the Road Runner with the wolf dude? Nobody was dying, even though they were taking all of this damage. They had all of this plot armor. That's like what I'm seeing. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Just I feel like what makes it seem like there's never gonna be deaths. Like people say, like the stakes are completely gone after this arc. I feel like that's just a blatant exaggeration because people can die literally next arc.
Mm-hmm.
They could.
Yeah, we get that. Yeah, that's understandable. That's common sense. What I'm saying is Mimosa. Mimosa is the main topic. She's the main argument. She's the main reason why we're all talking about this. She kills the purpose of casualty and consequences. Like what Notch said,
Facts.
right? Not everybody who's right is necessarily rewarded for it. That's reality. That
But
there's
then,
stakes.
but at the same time, not. It sounds like a general statement, but he's specifically talking about his brother.
I mean, don't you think that what he's talking to his brother applies to everybody in the story?
Not
I mean,
necessarily. I feel like he thinks that the reason he feels that way is because he's talking about like what happened with him and his brother. So he's basically projecting. That's how I feel personally. I feel like with that statement right there, I feel like Noct is projecting because his brother was the good person and he was going down the bad path, and the good person died, which was his brother, and he was doing some bad stuff, making deals with devils and stuff that his family was doing in secret. And Morgan or his brother tried to come and stop that. He was like, everyone who has ever seen him says like, yeah, he was the light, and he basically ended up dying because of what Noct did, and that's basically why Noct feels like that. Like he's basically projecting.
So you're saying
so
it's more of a projection than a statement?
Yeah, I feel like that's like a personal emotion that
Emotional.
Noct was feeling. It doesn't necessarily mean that's how he's always gonna feel, especially like after Asta, because Asta is the good guy and he did get what he was supposed to get.
true. But like, also Lucci, this is going back a little bit further too, because like I'll hear this and I want to talk, but like, I don't get a chance. But like Lucci had said something about how the main problem was Mimosa, because she is the main problem, but there are also other minor problems that would add up to be as big of a problem as her. Like with Mimosa, we see she was training just like everybody else. But even with that training, I don't know how she could go from barely being able to heal like one person to healing people who have taken major casualties from this huge threat that was just manhandling people and not even one shot. He wasn't even trying to one shot with a small percentage of his damage. He went all out with one hit against Asta, and Asta was healed just like that, like in the blink of an eye. Because
No,
it
it
was like
wasn't. No,
literally
it
one
wasn't.
page.
He wasn't. They basically said Asta should not be able to walk right now. He's doing it purely on willpower alone.
Yeah, but like the fact that he didn't die and all that. I'm not talking about like just the last chapter. I'm talking about a couple chapters back before he got the Devil Union jump. That's where he got that big heal from her, you know?
You talking about from Mimosa?
Yeah,
Nah, bro, that's not true. Mimosa said she really didn't even have enough time to do anything.
exactly. She didn't have enough time, which is like she still did the healing that she needed to do where she didn't have enough time. Like, because I was reading it while y'all were talking. She was basically healing him with as much as she could. Like, if you think of it like during the war arc with Sakura, where she was healing Naruto on that jump, that was basically Mimosa in that moment. And Mimosa knew she didn't have enough time. She knew she didn't have enough magic power, and she's never done anything like this before. She's also never trained hard enough to be able to do any of this, which is why we're like saying it
Yeah.
was
Hello,
lost.
the time skip?
Huh?
the time skip? Did she not train during the time skip?
Wasn't that like
I said she trained. I was
how
just saying she
long
did
was the
not
time
train
skip
hard
though?
enough.
With
But
Neo,
how do you
It,
know? Because it was a time skip.
with Neo, I got
it
a
was a
question.
few months.
That's a good argument. I could add to that. With Neo, how long was the time skip?
6 months.
6 months. Okay. Let's see. The Sakura shit, the Sakura junk versus the Mimosa. Sakura trained so long, right? But yet she's only able to heal Naruto for that like short like that. Her healing takes so long that they had to like take Naruto and like extend his life, and then she was struggling to do that. Mimosa, on the other hand, is just broken as she's able to heal multiple people with little difficulty. That's that's what makes that's her problem as a character. She is broken. She's too broken to the extent that her existence changes the whole pace of the story,
But
as
she
we saw
has
in the chapter.
like she has flaws because in a lot of the arcs she gets hurt, so she can't do that. Like whenever Asta and Yuno were fighting against Lick, she was literally like pinned to a cross. She couldn't do nothing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
facts.
So the
that's
fact
right.
that she's not really good at fighting, a lot of the time she gets hurt herself. So she has to like spend time to heal herself. So they can't like rely on her 100% of the time because a lot of the time she ends up getting hurt fighting against people who have a better attack spells. But she is starting to learn some attack spells, but her attack spells are still not strong enough to be able to push back some of these strong opponents.
Like she's not supposed to be an attack based character. We know that. But like she is on almost the same level as Austin and them with her almost like magic power. I'm not saying she's able to dish out attacks like that, but with her specialty, which she is like healing, she's over there doing as much healing as they're doing attack damage. Because if you look at it and you see how much damage Lucifero was doing to these people, and you see how she's healing them, it should not be adding up. She's basically, it's
Yes.
almost like she's negating his hits. She's not directly
Yes.
doing it, but
Mm,
she's able to heal a hit that did this much damage on this person. Like Austin, he has amazing durability,
mhm.
and he's still getting pierced by somebody with amazing attack. So that's almost like the attack plus durability. So she's healing this attack and some, which is like crazy.
I feel
She
like
shouldn't be able to do that.
y'all never had anything to say about some of my points. So I'm gonna kind of bring some of them back. Like
Yeah,
one
Yeah,
of
like
let me
there
hear 'em.
were there were like alternate paths, right? Yami could have died, but there was the alternate path where Yami survived and handed down his katana to Asta. Like, do y'all think that it was not worth it to
Nah,
keep Yami alive for that?
it
I
was
don't have
worth it.
I don't have a problem with that. That is worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is
That,
like
that was a good that was a good that was a good ending to the chapter as like Yami passed down his legacy to Asta.
facts.
They all survived. That ending was like it was perfectly played out. I completely
yeah.
agree with what you're saying.
And then the other one that I had brought up was the
Hmm.
Gaja confessing to Laurel.
I didn't really like that one though, because
I
like
didn't like that one too.
him confessing and then doing all that and then still living, it was almost like it was
Yeah, it
unnecessary.
felt
Like,
like the confession was pointless, but
yeah,
they're still gonna be able to get together. But like the impact and the what's the word for it? Uh, like that intense feeling that he was dying and he had feelings for her and he told her. It just felt useless at the end because he thought he was dying and like the stakes were at everything. It just felt like that little section of the story was just useless because like he just lived and like it just felt like pointless. Yeah, let's simplify with that.
So y'all would have been
yeah.
cool with him dying and not confessing. All right, that would have been
No,
the
no, no.
better path to go down.
No, no,
Him confessing and then dying would have been like the better path. Cause
no, no,
like,
like oh yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
cause like him confessing, he did all this, confessed his love and all that. That would have been a perfect ending, right? That would have been a perfect ending to his life. His life would have been complete. but then he gets pulled back with this plot armor, and it makes it look like it was worth it. It makes it look like he didn't risk as much as he really did. You know, that's
See what
like
you're saying?
me saying I'll jump off a cliff for you, but I'm hanging from a bungee cord. You feel me? I'll take a grenade for you, but I'm wearing a full juggernaut suit. You know,
Okay, so
Yes.
how was the impact of Lucida's death on you guys?
the impact of her death.
It didn't really do much for me personally because like we already knew she was dead because like in the beginning of the story we just saw that Asta was just living in an orphanage, and then we knew that she was dead already, so it felt like kind of similar to like Naruto when they showed the story of Minato and how he died, because it was like, yeah, that's like an unfortunate situation, but we were already how many chapters in, like 300 400 chapters into the story, and we didn't know anything about them until this, so it was just too like, not too little too late, but it was just like I didn't feel like as attached to the Lucina as I would attach, like as they said, like like even Gacha had more like depth to his character than Lucina did. So like seeing Lucina's how she went out, it was like that's unfortunate, but I didn't have as much attachment to her.
Yeah,
What about you?
facts,
What
facts.
about y'all? Same with y'all?
So like I feel where Corey's coming from, but like I really like the Chitta's like impact on the story. You know, she made those two come together. And although I don't like the way that they had all of these major power ups, I like the way that the characters bonded together, like Libe and Asta. I like those moments. You feel me?
Right.
Okay.
Facts.
My opinion was Lucida's death and her character introduction was necessary, so so the author could connect Asta and Liebe, or how do you pronounce his name? The demon?
Libe.
Liebe, yeah. Uh, Um, to connect their goals and motivations so they could fight together, right? I don't have a problem with her death or how her character was introduced. It was amazing. Like they brought it up. The author brought it up so they could connect the demon who had who didn't want to agree with Asta and fight alone and manipulate control his body, but instead put them together so they could fight together for that same purpose and goal. You understand?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what I gathered, like you guys enjoyed the arc in the most part, but are unhappy with the ending of it.
Yes.
Because
Basically.
it seems like y'all also agree with me on like a lot of the high points. They had a lot of high points in this arc, but the ending wasn't, satisfactory for you guys.
Mm.
Facts. Facts. Like
Because like
like you
I
said.
named a bunch of high points, and I can name more. It's not like I named all of the high points in this arc, and for the most part, y'all agree about the high points, but just the ending is where it's kind of a discrepancy.
Right.
Yeah. So like we agreed on most of your points.
Yeah,
It's just we didn't
you
like the
advanced on
ending,
most
like
of
the
the
way
points.
Mimosa came back.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like so, basically, you countered all our arguments, like everything we said, in my opinion, except for that um mimosa part. Uh, let's conclude this argument with what you think about Mimosa in the story.
Mimosa, I feel like she's probably I think she is the strongest healing mage that we've been seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Now to be added to her, they got Gray now. I feel like I don't know what category I would completely put Gray in. I guess I had to get y'all opinion on her too, because Mimosa didn't do all the healing in the arc. They also had other characters like Gray who did some healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, like I don't also agree with Gray either, because like Gray, she could have done so many things, like when Dante was attacking the Black Bulls, but she didn't. And there's no way that she could have trained that much, because Notch said they had 3 days. She couldn't have trained that much in 3 days and still had all that power to go out and do more in like the war. You feel me?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's wrap up with the conclusions. Neo, since you are the main antagonist or protagonist supporting Black Clover and protecting his legacy, how do you think? What do you think about what do you think about the whole thing in general. What do you think people? How do you think people should treat the final chapter of this arc?
I think the final chapter. I think it was meant to be heartwarming. Um, but of course, like y'all said, y'all also had some good points about how even though there's some things that could happen like that's in the future, it doesn't necessarily negate that they didn't have any right now when there could have been. I agree with that. There could have been deaths. Lucifero is definitely strong enough to maybe, kill somebody, but like I said, they did have real spelling effect. But I think that in the future, this arc will be looked back upon and be like, okay, this arc was kind of setting up for something because it did conclude, in my opinion, with it went the heartwarming path. The opposite path, which it seems like you guys would have rather gone down, is the dark path, where some characters died and it was like basically destruction. Cool, that's cool. That would have been a good path, but
Mm-hmm.
right here, let's say there's a heartwarming path. That's how it ends, and down the future you guys still get to get the destructive path, and it maybe it hits more because of how this one was so heartwarming, so it makes it a false sense of protection or a false sense of security, when in reality there's a greater threat looming, and it makes everybody get what they want, in a sense. Like it makes even an even greater impact on the reader after they see, like, oh, look how cool it is that my favorite characters went through this arc to get their captain back, and that just strengthened their bond. And then it will hurt even more to lose a character after that they bonded even more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that amazing conclusion. Well, let's all rate this arc in general, 1 through 10. I personally, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Neo, what do you think? What do you rate this arc?
i'd have to I'd have to give it like I'd give it an 8.5.
8.5.
I think
And
that's the most fair.
Payne, what do you rate this
hold on. Before I give mine, Neo,
arc?
like, where would you rank this out of like Black Clover's arcs? Like, would you say it was
I'd
like the
rank it,
best, the worst?
me personally, I enjoyed the Elf arc a little bit more. I would rate the Elf arc like a 9 out of 10 arc. Like, that was a really good arc. I
Mm-hmm.
think this was a really good arc too, but the 0.5 difference, I got to give it to the Elf arc. That's me personally.
Okay,
So
so
it's
it's
like your second
mhm.
favorite.
Yeah, my second favorite.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's 7.5 from me and
So
8.5 from Neo. Payne, what do you
I
think?
this is gonna sound ironic, but I was gonna say like an 8 because like I enjoyed the chapter. I mean, not the chapter, the arc. It was carried by hype a lot for me, and that's a W.
Yes,
But
that
I
was
don't.
the peak of this arc. It was the
Yeah,
fights, the
hype
more
and stuff like
yes,
that.
the hype of the arc. Yes,
But it
I
also had some
completely agree
moments
with
that I
that.
didn't like, and the writing wasn't the best. So
An 8.
yeah,
Corey, what do you think? What do you rate this arc out of a 10?
Me personally, this is gonna sound really bad. I give it like I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Cause like y'all said, like it was generating hype and the fighting was really cool. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't like how a lot of like I guess the fights ended and like how a bunch of stuff happened that just like felt like a recurring theme of the story. So that's why I give it a 6.5. But I definitely see why y'all give it y'all's ratings.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of the fights in this arc carried.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
Yes,
Bro,
definitely.
like
definitely
the
they carry.
the
We
Dante
all agree.
versus Asta and Yami
Yami,
fight was amazing.
yes, the animated it well.
And then some of the stuff that the anime didn't get to, the Xenon versus Juno fight, like their rematch, that fight was cold. I like that one. Xenon was my favorite Dark Triad member, so that was a good fight. I like the Vonica versus Noelle too, and Magicula. I liked her too,
facts.
because Vonica kind of got packed up, and then Magicula came.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, in conclusion, this arc was an amazing arc.
cap.
We all had our oppositions. Mine was fixing the Mimosa issue with how she kills Consequence. Neo's argument was the arc being a build up to another arc that has more to the story. And I think in general, the Twitter argument is just overblown and overplayed out. The arc was amazing. The story was amazing. Characters were amazing. It's just
Yeah,
the Twitter community being blind and clueless and making pointless arguments instead of actually being logical and analyzing it.
but that's why we love Twitter.
Yeah,
Good old
that is
Twitter.
why we love Twitter.
But yeah, so that'll basically wrap up the podcast for today. Thank you if you made it this far. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and thank you Neo for coming on the podcast and sharing your
Yes,
ideas
thank
with
you,
us.
Neil.
No,
We
thank
had
you for
Yeah.
being.
interesting
Oh,
arguments.
thank you for making it last as long and not being boring. You know, you had
Yes.
some pretty good arguments. You know,
Appreciate y'all. It was fun coming through for this.
yes sir. Peace out. Love y'all. Ooh.